You're listening to Snippets from the Summit with your host, Scott McKay.
All right, how's it going, gentlemen? This is your main man, Scott McKay, coming at you again with another Snippet from the Summit as part of the Mountaintop podcast from X&Y Communications. In case you haven't noticed, but I'm sure you have, there's been a lot of talk in social media and, well, other media lately about emotional regulation. It's one of those topics that sort of sprouted up out of nowhere, I don't know, about 6-8 months ago. And man, I get like 3 or 4 pitches per week from guests who want to come on the show and talk about it. So I figured it was finally time for me to give you my somewhat original take on this whole emotional regulation thing, especially in a context that I think all of us as men have noticed, if not in ourselves, at least elsewhere. And it gives us, kind of a timely warning on what to watch out for, lest it creep into our lives as men and kind of wreck our masculine presence. All right, so emotional regulation, loosely defined, is about what Rudyard Kipling talks about in his classic poem written years and years ago, I might add. This is nothing new, called If. And one of the most poignant lines from that entire poem is, of course, "If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs, then you will be a man, my son." And it seems like this whole pitch from pretty much the entire mental health industry nowadays, bunches of psychotherapists and the like, talking about emotional regulation, is coming from a place of people not seeing a whole lot lately of people keeping their head vis-a-vis everybody about them losing theirs. But indeed, this is a cornerstone of masculinity itself, not to lose your cool. So emotional regulation means if you're provoked, if there's something that in the past has triggered you, if there's something that makes you angry, if there's something that just sits poorly with you and then stays with you for a long time and you simmer over it, well then, you know what? You're lacking an ability to regulate yourself emotionally. So this is a bigger deal than ever in the year 2026 nowadays, because fewer people are indeed exhibiting an ability to regulate themselves emotionally. So what's going on here? Well, as per always, the doom scrolling with social media has led to a lot of extreme opinions being displayed on a daily basis, day in, day out, pretty much 24/7 on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, any social media, especially X. And what's happened is everybody on social media, from the influencer with millions of eyeballs looking at every move they make to even the normal person out there who just has a Facebook friend group they write to, everybody has long since realized that the more extreme a take, the more polarized a take, the hotter a take that they offer, the more engagement they'll get. So you have a lot of extreme takes going on as a direct result of, well, human nature. So what's gone on is we've not only conditioned ourselves to see everything in black and white, right or wrong, and everybody having an opinion and it being a very polarizing one to which you just feel emotionally compelled to respond. Over time, what's happened is people are not seeing the middle ground. People are not even feeling the need to restrain themselves from commenting on every opinion out there. And ultimately, what's happened is a lot of people are very emotionally charged. The cortisol levels have gone up. I mean, just look at us physically, guys. It's affecting us. All of that stress on a daily basis. Lots of observers have already duly noted that men and women both are sort of spending their entire lives in a constant state of fight or flight response, which is just no good for us physically. So emotional regulation, or the lack thereof, is not only bad for our mental health, it's bad for our physical health too. Now, here's the angle that really separates what we're talking about in this brief episode from perhaps anything you've seen elsewhere out there. Given that we're talking to each other specifically as men here, and this, as always, is about maximizing our masculinity, here's my challenge to you. If you're finding it difficult to regulate your emotions, to keep yourself from having a powerful emotional response and finding it irresistible not to add your opinion to a thread that's talking about something or covering something that's really minimally at best affecting your life, that's when you know you're in very real trouble. You probably saw what happened in the last week or two with Dr. Anthony Fauci. People are very predictably posting their opinions about Dr. Fauci online, and it's eliciting just massive emotional response from people. Men and women getting angry and venting and writing paragraph upon paragraph in response to someone else's Facebook post that's, in and of itself probably 1,000, 1,500 words. And this disrupted their whole day. They knee-jerked in response to something that made them angry in the moment. And it's all to something that is utterly unimportant in the grand scheme of what's going on in their life today, in the short term or even in the long term. Now, as rough as that sounds, as silly as that sounds once the light shines on it, I'll go to sports threads. And, I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan. And the amount of vitriol, back and forth, angry, hyper-emotional response to the play of De'Aaron Fox at point guard for the San Antonio Spurs and whether we should trade him or keep him, give him another year, whether his contract is too expensive, is just off the charts related to San Antonio Spurs fandom. And for sure, we're talking about something that goes way beyond simple banter back and forth between sports enthusiasts, presumably for entertainment purposes only. This is almost all men, and I'll tell you what De'Aaron Fox is doing, what De'Aaron Fox is getting paid, has little, if anything, to do with our lives as men. Gentlemen, if we can't, or importantly, won't, even try to regulate ourselves emotionally in the context of threads that relate almost zero to what's going on in our real actual lives, how can we possibly be expected to be emotionally regulated when something that is affecting our lives is going on? When our wives or girlfriends bring drama, when we have something go on with the family, when, God forbid, there's a family emergency or something that feels like a crisis in the moment directly in front of you has to be taken care of. And probably more importantly to the grand scheme of things, how can we be emotionally regulated when we're doing long-term planning, when we're talking and thinking about the things that are important but perhaps not urgent? Gentlemen, the path to proper, powerful, masculine emotional regulation starts when we know how to check ourselves relative to the things going on in our lives that have relatively little, if any, impact on us at all. Then and only then can we start expanding out to practicing emotional regulation and being a more evolved man in that regard when and if things do come up that do matter in our lives. Guys, this is a very important place for us to check ourselves, and it's a true frontier of personal growth for many of us, and one that we can get handled starting today simply by choosing to align our behavior with that of the emotionally regulated, masculine man of character and maturity we want to become. And make no mistake, the women are watching, and if you lack emotional regulation in those trivial moments, they know. They already know. It's written all over you and how you respond to things that you can't provide, you can't lead, you can't protect, and you can't preside when something that really does matter both to you, to her, and perhaps your future family goes down. Gentlemen, emotional regulation starts with the simple things, the things that are out of your control and the things that don't affect you much, and then and only then can you start practicing emotional regulation when things do matter, when the chips are down. Want to talk about this or anything else? Scott at mountaintoppodcast.com. Be good out there.
As always, visit mountaintoppodcast.com for more.